How's it going, folks? So today I'm going to be talking about the new upcoming debut album from the band Skinner. The name of this album is Heartstruck, and when I see the name or say the name, I cannot help but think of Deputy Director Skinner from the X-Files. Well, eventually director, but I think it's spelled differently, but still, X-Files is one of my favorite shows of all time. But anywho, but y'all know it by now. Before I get into that nitty gritty, let's check out the cover. So boom, there it is. Take a look at that cover right there. I dig it, man. As a big fan of like horror films and slasher films and things like that, this is really cool and kind of has a classic vibe to it, a slasher horror movie vibe to it. And just all the detail in there. You have the knife up there in the front, and you can see the girl. She's got like a lollipop, calm and collected. It's very cold, which is fitting of kind of a slasher vibe. And her reflections in the knife, which is a nice touch. And you see the hand of what is, I imagine, the body of the person she just dispatched. And I don't know if it's like a hotel room or the person's home, but it just has a really cool classic horror movie, slasher movie look to it. Band name looks great up in the top left corner, and the name of the album, Heartstruck, looks really neat in the bottom right hand corner. It's just all framed really well, and it's just a really great cover for what they're trying to convey. I dig it big time. A lot of nice touches in there. So A plus on the cover aesthetically. Now, does it properly convey the music you're going to get? I think so. It's funny. It's one of those things where it could easily come off maybe as something more harsh than it is. But I think the way that it's done, I don't know. Y'all will have to let me know in the comments down below. But if I was at the CD shop scrolling through and I see this cover and I'm like, wow, this looks interesting. I'm really curious about it. And I bought it. I don't think I would think it's really like metalcore or death metal or anything like that. My, I think honestly though, my main thought would be that it's possibly thrash metal, but just kind of maybe a heavy metal vibe. It could kind of go a couple different ways, but I think for the most part, if you bought the album and brought it home, I do not think you would be shocked by the sound that you get. So I don't know, maybe I'm biased because I like the cover and the throwback aesthetic of it, but I think it does a good job on both fronts. But anywho, let's talk about the album itself now. This bad boy's got 8 tracks on there and comes in at about 36 minutes, so it's quite brief. I guess it just barely crosses that threshold of an EP, but it's a good length and it's the debut album. And it goes by pretty quick, and it kind of demands, re-listen. It's pretty easy to listen to, so you kind of want to jump back in as far as sound goes. And folks, I'm going to try to condense my album thoughts, my album review videos a little bit, so I'll try not to go off on so many tangents, maybe not go into as much detail. So this is my first attempt to kind of condense things a bit. So bear with me. And in the future, I'm going to try to keep them about 10 minutes long, a little bit more digestible, because sometimes I go 20 minutes and nobody wants to sit there for that. But anywho, this album, Heartstruck, the debut album from Skinner, it's a really cool blend between kind of 80s melodic rock slash melodic metal, because there is some heavy metal aspects to it, but there are some heavy melodic rock aspects to it as well. And it's really neat because if you didn't guess already from the cover, they really infuse kind of a horror aspect to it, a throwback kind of 80s. Well, in some instances, I'll mention later, it goes back even further than like the 80s as far as like horror slasher goes. But yeah, it really infuses kind of that horror aspect, that slasher horror movie aspect in with a melodic rock slash melodic heavy metal vibe. And they do it really well. It just works. There's really great melodies in here, really great guitar work. Great use of the keyboards, and the vocals are really, really solid. So I really enjoyed all the musicianship, excuse me. The vocals do a great job. He's got a great kind of clean voice. He can go high. He delivers well, and it just suits the sound very well. The production, spot on. Production is solid. You can hear everything uh, quite well. The mix is good. You know, all the instruments, nothing kind of gets lost in the noise. You can hear everything quite well. Lord have mercy. Sorry about that, folks. Can't control when that happens, but yeah, so everything sounds good. You can hear everything quite well, and it all works together well. The songwriting is solid. I would say the songwriting, the focus is really kind of on the melody, in particular well, no, I can't even say that. You know, the melodic or oh goodness, I'm so embarrassed. Jeez, sorry, folks. The vocal melody kind of takes the forefront, but there are times when the music takes the forefront, like a guitar riff or something, or what have you. But for the most part, I would say the vocal melody kind of takes the forefront. But yeah, so that's what you get sound wise. You know, it starts off pretty well. You know, it kind of you kind of get your feet wet, you know, when the album first starts with "You Are Next," but I feel like the core, the highlight of the album is with tracks 3 and 4, and one could even say 5 and 6. Well, it continues well, but my favorite songs are track 3, Interstellar, Love, Hysteria. Phenomenal. It's so catchy, great melody. That's a little bit more on the melodic rock side. And then you get track 4, Night Cull, and that is a little bit more of kind of like a heavy metal vibe to it, a little bit more driven, almost Judas Priest kind of style to it, but still retaining the qualities of the kind of 80s melodic horror, you know, movie slasher feel. And they just do a really great job of that. And if I had to describe this album with one word and one word only, I would use the word refreshing. It just has its own sound, its own unique personality, and it's something that kind of stands out from the crowd for me. I listened to it and I was like, this is nice, this is refreshing, it's different. You know, they're trying something different, and for the most part, it all comes together really, really well. So, yeah, like I said, track 3, Interstellar Love Hysteria, if I were to recommend one track, if you're like, tell me one song if I want to hear the whole album or not, give me one song to kind of get the vibe of the album, I would say go with Interstellar Love Hysteria. I really think that kind of encapsulates the feeling and the vibe of the whole album. But I would really recommend the pair, even though they're my favorite songs, that there's still a lot to like here. But I would recommend Interstellar Love Hysteria and then also listen to Night Cold, because between the two, you're set. You really have a good idea of what the album holds. And again, even though those are my favorite, they may not be yours, and there's still a lot to love here. Like, for instance, I mean, He Sees You is a nice kind of atmospheric. That one really kind of hones in on that slasher horror movie vibe. And then you get Dance with the Dead, which is really nice and catchy, and starts off with like the Psycho movie, that theme, that tune, and that's what I mean by it goes a little bit even past the 80s, older than the 80s as far as slashers go. But so there's a lot in here. There's a lot of paying homage to things, and just melodic rock and heavy metal, but all within this somewhat horror 80s aesthetic. And I dig it. I really, really dig it. For the most part, it works well. There's definite room for improvement, but this is the debut album. You know, I feel like at times the things really click at moments, you know, within various songs, not just my two favorites, but like, for example, He Sees You and Dance with the Dead, and even Self-Eating Creatures. You know, there's moments where everything clicks really well and it's really got its own personality. But then there are times where I feel like it strays a little bit, like perhaps they're still trying to find that sound in particular they're looking for. You know, they're still experimenting a little bit. You can hear that, but that's to be expected from a debut album. So, you know, I really look forward to more. I really look forward to seeing what the band continues to do because this experiment here, I really dig it. I really, really enjoy it. And I look forward to them kind of honing that in even more and really, really perfecting that sound, that fusion of genres and movie influence, horror influence all in one. And I think there's really just nothing but even better things to come from this band. So I highly recommend it. If you're into melodic rock, highly recommend it. If you're into heavy metal, highly recommend it. If you're into horror movies in particular, kind of 80s slasher movies, things like that, I highly recommend it. So it's definitely unique, and I really, really enjoyed it. You can consider me a fan. I'm going to be following this band for sure from now on. And again, I just highly recommend this album, and I think it's something fresh and new that both the melodic rock and heavy metal genres kind of need. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this. It closes out really well with Josephine as well. So very nice, well-rounded, easy to digest, and go back in and start from scratch. So yeah, that's what I have to say about this. Again, this comes out Friday, April 21st. Let me know if you're excited for this album. Let me know once you've heard it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I would love to discuss it and hear what y'all think. But that's what I got to say about the debut album from the band Skinher called Heartstruck. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you next time. Ranger, out.